I drove 6 hours home for Christmas Eve believing, against my better judgment, that maybe this year would be different. The highway was almost empty by the time I crossed into my hometown. I had packed a small suitcase, a bottle of wine, and the stubborn hope that I could sit at my family's table without feeling like a guest. Mom opened the door before I could knock twice. She looked at me, then at my suitcase. "You're late." "I left early." "Traffic." She stepped aside. "Just put your things upstairs. No hug, no I'm glad you're here." I told myself not to care. 10 minutes later, I was sitting at the children's table in the corner of the dining room. There were paper snowflakes hanging above it. I stared at them. Mom came over carrying another stack of plates. "Your sister's boyfriend will be here in 15 minutes, she whispered. "Please don't embarrass us tonight." I looked up. "How would I embarrass you?" She sighed as though I'd asked something childish. "Just don't talk about work, don't correct anyone, and don't make things uncomfortable." I almost laughed. I had driven 6 hours for Christmas Eve, and apparently my biggest responsibility was remaining invisible, so I nodded. "Okay." She walked away. I stayed quiet. That was the strange thing about being underestimated for years. Eventually, you became very good at silence. I watched my sister move around the room, excitedly checking her phone. "He's almost here." She was glowing. Mom straightened her blouse. Dad checked his watch. Nobody looked at me. Then the doorbell rang. My sister practically ran toward it. The door opened. A man stepped inside carrying a small gift bag. He was tall, neatly dressed, and nervous in the way people are when they're meeting a partner's family for the first time. "Sorry I'm late," he said. Then he looked past my sister. His eyes found mine. He stopped. The color drained from his face. For a second, nobody understood what was happening. Then he took one step backward and caught the doorframe. My sister grabbed his arm. "Are you okay?" He wasn't looking at her. He was still looking at me. "Is that?" I stood. "Daniel." His mouth opened slightly. "You're here?" My mother frowned. "You two know each other?" Daniel looked around the room, then back at me. "You're her brother?" I nodded. He gave a short, disbelieving laugh. "I didn't know." Mom's expression changed. "What exactly do you know about him?" Daniel looked uncomfortable. "I know he was the person who stopped my company from losing one of its largest contracts." Silence. My sister blinked. "What?" Daniel continued carefully. "There was a compliance issue 6 months ago. We were about to sign documents that would have exposed us to serious liability. He caught it during the final review." Dad slowly lowered his glass. Daniel looked at me. "You stayed on the call for 3 hours that night." "I was doing my job." "You saved my career." I shook my head. "I did what I was supposed to do." He smiled faintly. "That sounds like you." My mother looked at me as though she were meeting a stranger. "You never told us." I glanced toward the children's table. "You never asked." Nobody answered. And somehow that sentence hurt more than anything she'd said earlier. Daniel looked toward the table. "Why were you sitting there?" I didn't answer. He did, "Because nobody here knows who he is." Mom's face tightened. "That's not fair." "No," Daniel said quietly. "It isn't." There was no shouting, no dramatic confrontation, just an uncomfortable silence in which everyone suddenly had to live with what they had done. My sister pulled out a chair beside her. "Sit here." I looked at it, then at Mom. For years, I had imagined a moment when my family would finally understand me. I had imagined explaining every achievement, every sacrifice, every time I had swallowed an insult because keeping peace seemed easier. But standing there, I realized I didn't want to explain anymore. I picked up my wine glass. "Thank you," and I sat down, not because Daniel had defended me, not because my family had suddenly become proud. I sat there because I had finally stopped believing I needed permission to belong. Dinner continued awkwardly. Nobody knew what to say. Eventually, Mom leaned toward me. "I'm sorry." I looked at her. She seemed genuinely sorry, but an apology couldn't erase 6 hours of driving, years of assumptions, or the small habit I'd developed of making myself smaller around them. So I simply said, I appreciate that. It was enough for that night. Later, while I was packing my things, my phone buzzed. A message from Mom. I thought I knew you. I stared at it for a long time. Then another message appeared. I was wrong. I didn't answer immediately. For once, I didn't feel responsible for making everyone comfortable. I put my phone in my pocket, carried my suitcase downstairs, and walked out into the cold. The porch light followed me down the steps. Behind me, my family was still inside. Ahead of me was the 6-hour drive back. And strangely, it didn't feel like I was leaving home. It felt like I was finally going somewhere. I didn't have to prove I belonged.